Dear colleagues and participants, in this presentation, I will explore the evolving space of professional culture, drawing on a range of visual materials. This includes my own illustration, freely available images from open sources, as well as ideas and visualization generated by ChatGPT. Together, these elements will help illustrate key concepts and trends shaping professional culture today. With this in mind, let us explore the key aspects in more detail. In the era of globalization and rapid technological transformation, the study of phenomena of professional culture is becoming particularly relevant. Exploring the concepts of space of culture and cultural space and the relationship between them opens up new perspectives for understanding how professional environments adapt and evolve in response to the challenges of the modern world. This study examines the most relevant models of professional culture and analyzes their impact on the development of specialists in different fields. It explores the cultural forms and objects that shape the modern space of professional culture and highlights key aspects of their effectiveness and improvement in the era of globalization and digital transformation. It's well known that more than 50 years ago, American scholars Clarkson and Kreber identified over 300 academical definitions of culture. At present, researchers have documented more than 500 definitions, most of which are nearly identical in scope and meaning. The existence of numerous diverse definitions is explained by the presence of multiple partial approaches to interpreting culture from the perspective of different academic disciplines, as well as by attempt to hypothesize, absolutize, and elevate this interpretation to a philosophical categorical level. In light of this, so-called classificatory definitions have emerged and gained prominence, each of which warrants a separate discussion. All cultural scholars agree that culture is distinct from nature. It is value that serves as the basis of foundation of all culture, rather than everything created by humans, including the products of their activities. Thus, the key idea that truly defines culture is the concept of cultural heritage as a result of material production and spiritual development. This is precisely the context in which culture is interpreted in the law of Ukraine on culture. Thus, culture constitutes a vast information and symbolical system that, through specialized programs, provides individuals with specific behavioral patterns, while simultaneously shaping unique social norms and generating new cultural objects. The fundamental symbolic system operating within the cultural context ultimately constructs the cultural space. It is worth noting that in scholarly discourse, the terms cultural space and space of culture are sometimes used interchangeably as synonyms. However, we allied with those researchers who distinguish between these concepts, primarily in terms of their value-based dimension, while acknowledging their complementary nature. Cultural space encompasses a broader context that includes the diversity of cultural systems, traditions, mentalities, and identities that exist within a specific territorial space or community. In contrast, the space of culture comprises the significant aspect among ideals, views on morality, religion, tradition, and aspiration, which are defined by an individual's culture values and beliefs. The cultural space serves as a contextual environment in which various cultural aspects are shaped and developed, whereas the space of culture is determined by a system of values inherent to a particular cultural community or individual. Cultural space can be used to describe both a physical and metaphorical space where cultural processes take place and evolve. Among them, various cultural forms can be distinguished. These diverse cultural entities manifest in ways of thinking, beliefs, values, norms, customs, tradition, and socio-economic practices. When considering cultural space at the level of humanity as a whole, several relatively autonomous domains can be identified, such as national cultures, regional cultures, and civilization. These should be regarded as the primary types of cultural forms. Within these broad domains, various small-scale cultural expressions have historically emerged, occupying distinct subsectors of their space. It is important to emphasize that each cultural element exists relatively independently, forming its own space of culture. Therefore, cultural space can be defined as a space comprising multiple spaces. Some of these are illustrated on the slide. The functional characteristic of cultural space can be distinguished as follows. Firstly, cultural space is a field of possibility. Secondly, it functions as an ecosystem. We mean preserving cultural diversity is essential for the overall health and resilience of society. Apart from, it is a place of interaction between cultural and social dynamics. In other contexts, cultural space ensures access to cultural resources and promotes principles of equality and inclusivity, making it a foundation for ethical and social standards. Finally, cultural space serves as a platform for dialogue and mutual understanding among different cultural, ethnic, and social groups, fostering consensus, tolerance, and peace. We have given in detail explanation to clearly show the specific of professional cultural space. We consider that professional culture is the mastery of a professional at a creative level. From activity-based perspective, it should be interpreted as a normative requirement for performing professional duties. Abraham Moll saw information flows is key element that shape cultural space and reflect a society's way of life. Based on this idea, we can identify several layers of culture. Thus, the space of professional culture can be described as a multi-level structure where each tier influences the formation and expression of an individual's cultural values, norms, practice, identity to varying degrees, namely micro level, the level of individual professional culture; meso level, the level of group organizational professional culture; macro level, the level of national professional culture. It refers to broader social cultural practice, including national tradition, language, historical and religious context of professional activity, as well as global cultural flows and interaction. Transcultural level, the level at which professional culture intersect and merge beyond national and ethnic groups. The above can be illustrated in the form of a tree. Notably, this interpretation was proposed by artificial intelligence. The space of educator professional culture has been reflected in numerous models, each highlighting different aspects, including the multi-dimensionality and plurality of cultural forms. Our attention was drawn to the spatial model of culture developed by Anatoly Karmin. The scholar conceptualizes cultural space as a repository created by a multitude of cultural phenomena that intertwine and interact while also being distributed across three specific dimensions. By analogy with the three types of meaning contained in information, knowledge, values, and norms, Karmin identifies three dimensions of cultural space: the cognitive, the value-based, and the regulatory ones. Cultural phenomena positioned with this three-dimensional space are grouped into complexes and systems that form various types of culture. A building of this idea, as well as our previous developments, we attempt to model the space of an educator's professional culture in a generalized form, distinguishing three key dimensions. The activity-based one reflects the structure and normative requirements of professional activity. It encompasses not only the functional aspect of professional activity, but also its ethical norms and standards. The value-based dimensions focuses on the set of professional values, perceiving culture as a world of values that form the foundation for shaping a specialist professional value goals, value means, value knowledge, value attitudes, and value qualities. Values can be divided into different levels. The technological dimensions represents the organization aspects of professional activity and defines the specialist's approach to selecting the necessary tools and methods, planning and executing specific sequences of operation. Today, this requires professionals to master model technical tools, demonstrate readiness to embrace innovations, and adapt to evolving technological conditions. The essential value-based core of the space of professional culture consists of paradigmatic form of culture. This form generally refers to structural characteristic of specific historical period and regional development, which determine the national content of culture and ensure its uniqueness. Thus, the core of specialist professional culture is generally culture. A visual representation of the architecture of the space of professional culture is presented on the slide, where the cultural forms associated with each dimension are also outlined. At the same time, with the explanation of the space of professional culture, new innovative direction for a specialist professional development emerge. Among them are a lot of interesting things. Moreover, it is important to highlight new influential factors of the digital environment, which create new forms of cultural interaction. This structure creates an environment that fosters the growth of new businesses, supports startups and innovative projects, and provides resources, mentorship, and access to networking opportunities. The integration of real and virtual cultural spaces has led to introduction of new forms of professional culture. These innovators can contribute to the creation of more dynamic and interactive environments for professional growth and development, while also providing the necessary resources and support for a specialist professional formation. We conclude that the space of professional culture is currently undergoing an evolution driven by globalization, virtualization, and new paradigms of professional activity. That and other trends stimulates the search for innovative and effective approaches to the training and development of qualified specialists. One such exploration has just been presented. Thank you for your attention.